Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I am making apple and butternut squash hash, and I wrote down the recipe right here, but I found it online, so I'll post a link in the description box. I already have most of my ingredients prepped. Now it's calling for one small butternut squash, but I have large ones that are ripe from my garden, so I just used half of one. Skin removed, shredded. I know my writing, I scribbled it fast and I can read it. Sorry if you can't. 1 apple, and I have gala apples, so that's what I'm using. 1 pound of breakfast sausage, 4 strips of bacon diced, half of an onion, I think it said yellow onion, and half teaspoon of dried basil. Well, I have frozen basil, so that's what I'm going to use. If you see, I already shredded my butternut squash and apple in the food processor, so that's done. If you don't have a food processor, you can go ahead and use a cheese grater, and if you don't have that, the recipe says that you can just dice it. So you have options there. It doesn't have to be shredded like this, evidently, according to the recipe. But I thought this would sound like a great recipe because I have butternut squash that I've harvested and hardened off in the greenhouse. And, well, I'm waiting on the rest of them to come to maturity to ripen on the vine. I have some to use now, and it's fall time, and it sounded like a wonderful fall recipe. So that's what I am doing today. So I have to get my 4 strips of bacon diced and put into the skillet here. So I am going to use just some scissors and cut them off. I have some hickory smoked uncured bacon with no sugar I'm going to use. This came from Aldi's, in case any of you are wondering. Four strips of bacon. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, get them out. And I'm just going to use scissors and chop them up. I already have my skillet heated on medium. I'm probably going to end up turning it down. I like medium-low temperature to cook bacon. That's what I prefer. Excuse me while I wash my hands. Alright, I turned the hood on. I'm sorry if that sounds really annoying to any of you, but it's getting pretty smoky in here. I got the window open, obviously, too. Move the camera closer. You can see inside. So I'm scraping all the brown bits off the bottom as I'm stirring this up. And basically I'm going to cook it until it's mostly crispy because I'm going to add it back into the skillet at the end. So however you would like your bacon cooked, that is totally up to you. I know some people like it limp, like I like mine limp. I like it crispy sometimes, but for the most part, yeah, limp to mediumly cooked. So we'll get back when this is done cooking. Okay, now we're only going to take the bacon out. The recipe does call to leave the bacon grease still in the pan, that way we can saute our onions. making a complete mess out of this, aren't I? I don't know, I'll have to see the remnants of this afterwards. Come on. Come on. Oh, alright, got it. Oh, not too bad. I didn't do too bad of a job. Now it's time to add the onions. So this is a half of yellow onion here. We're going to let that cook down. It's suggested now to go ahead and chop up your squash and your apples if you have a food processor. If you're doing it the other way, it might take longer. But I already have mine chopped up, so I don't have to worry about it. We're just going to go ahead and let these cook. And, oops, missed some. Now I'll be back. I did want to mention really quick that I went ahead and turned the stove up to medium just now to get these onions cooked faster. So I thought I'd let you know and not leave anything out for you. Alright, now the onions look a bit transparent, so I'm going to go ahead and add in my sausage. A pound. This is a 3-pound baggie that I made up, so I'm just eyeballing it by 1/3 and adding it in there. And I'm going to chop this up. Alright, that looks pretty nice. Okay, now I'm going to add the guts. The guts, and when I mean the guts of is butternut squash and apple guts. Oh, there's an apple seed that I missed. Looks like my food processor missed a pretty big chunk. I'm going to go ahead and leave that in there. That's a preference of your flavor. And I also left the skins on my apples to add in for extra fiber too. So it didn't say anything about skinning off for the apples, just the butternut squash. So I'm going to go ahead and mix all this together. I'll be sticking in my basil. I probably could have went ahead and chopped this up, but I did not. That's basil I also grew. It's dark purple opal basil. That's why it looks a little different. And you could add salt and pepper to taste now or later. I'm going to I'm pretty sure I might change my mind. Wait until afterwards, because with the bacon and the sausage already having salt in it, I want to wait for the final result to see what kind of salt I would like to add to it. Okay, I'm going to let this cook down for a bit. I'm going to stick a lid on it, and I'm going to wait until it's halfway done cooking before I add the garlic in, because if I add the garlic in now, the garlic, when it cooks for a while, it starts to become bitter. So I don't want to overcook my garlic. So let me go get a lid out. Ta-da! I'll be back. Ryan just came here and says, "That smells so good. What's the time frame?" I said, "I don't know. I've never made this recipe before." I did keep the stove at medium, and I did wash this spatula off before I used it again, because this is mostly cooked meat, and I know I touched the food with the raw meat in there, and so I just wanted to be a little safe, and I just did a quick wash on it. So now I'm going to add the garlic. Get that worked in there because it is halfway done. Oh look, I'm able to chop up that big piece of squash now. See, I've only baked squash, I mean butternut squash, not just any squash. I've only baked butternut squash, so I wasn't sure how long it was going to take on the stove, but shredding it up really helps cook it along faster as well, so it is a relatively quick recipe. The only thing that was the hardest was obviously cutting and peeling a raw butternut squash. I do need to look into a better, heavier duty peeler. I only have one of those small potato peelers, carrot peelers, whatever you want to call it. I want one of those wide ones that could really peel something off. One that you might even be scared to put on your own skin because it'll rip it off. I think that would help out a lot. Or if I would have microwaved the butternut squash before, when I was doing the keto diet, I would microwave my spaghetti squash, and you know, to soften it up, I would put it in there for 5 minutes and then wait for it to cool down and then cut it, and it made it a lot softer. So I did that again with the butternut squash last time I cooked with it, because I had only bought it from the store at that time. And yeah, it made it a lot easier. But I did save seeds. So, yeah, I'm rambling. It looks cooked, and there's quite a bit of juice in there. So I am going to let it cook with the lid off for a bit, try to reduce some of the juice in here. And I'm going to scrape the brown off the bottom, get all that goodness in there. The fond, I think is what it's called. I think that's only with meat, but I'm not sure. It could mean with everything you cook, the brown bits at the bottom. Oh yeah. Alright, now it is time to add back in the bacon. I'm going to go ahead and turn the stove off. This is glass top electric, and it'll continue to cook while it cools down at the same time. So, yeah. Whoops, I made a mess. In my kitchen, I'm not cooking right unless I make a mess. I don't know if that's the same for other people. I'm sure it is. I'm sure I'm not the only one out there. Holler to you, folks. Now it'll be time for the taste test. So you do have a bit of a tripod leg there in the view. This is still pretty hot. So I'm just going to try to grab as many elements of this dish as I can and cool it down. And take a bite. Yeah, I had just snacked. So I'm not that hungry, so I made a small bowl. But I have plenty for later. It has a different type of a flavor since all of the flavors are combined. I could definitely taste the sausage. I could definitely taste the apples and the squash and the onions. And somehow it all marries together into this wonderful dish. That's like, well, how did you do that? Like, if you are blindfolded and tasting this, some people might not even be able to guess what's all in it. I taste the fennel seeds from the sausage. So I bet you fennel would go good in this. Even if you use just ground pork or beef and you put fennel in there or something, and sage, I bet it would be fire. So that's also another idea if you don't have breakfast sausage or anything, and you do happen to have some fennel seed and sage on hand, there's an idea for you. This is really good. I really like it. I like the spaghetti squash as a side dish more, though. But for a 1 skillet meal, I'm definitely saying it's delicious. So go ahead and give this recipe a try. Tell me how it turned out for you. Tell me what you've done differently to the recipe. I'd like to know. And as always, I love you, and so does Jesus. God bless.